Hi, I'm Dorothy Neufeld with the Investing News Network, and here with me today at the Extraordinary Futures Conference is James Black, Vice President of Listings Development at the Canadian Securities Exchange. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to first start off by talking about your work with the Canadian Securities Exchange.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could approach that from a lot of different angles, but what I do at the CSE is I run our sales and marketing team. So we've got a head office in Toronto where I now work and live. I used to live out here in Vancouver, and we've got a team out here, and then we have national coverage. And really what we're trying to do is attract companies, entrepreneurial-led companies to the public markets to access public venture capital on our exchange, the CSE. Make things a lot easier for the companies by offering a streamlined regulatory framework. We emphasize high levels of disclosure on our website, and it's a very simple to use website. And then we offer a low fixed fee rate for our companies to list. So the combination of that and the way we do business, which is very service oriented, is what led us to being the fastest growing exchange in the country.
Wow, I had no idea. That's so interesting. And in terms of the tech listings, what is standing out to you so far?
I mean, the past year we've seen a variety of things, right? So, from my perspective, we're seeing a lot of interest in things like esports. That was one. Last year, obviously, blockchain and blockchain-enabled solutions. That was another. We get a lot of data-focused companies now. We had one list on us a couple of years ago called Rewe Corp, which is one that we feature in our latest publication. And very interesting concept, very interesting company, led by someone who's very much a data scientist himself. So, again, wherever the market is trying to find solutions and trying to take them to market, we're there. We're in the middle of it all. So I wouldn't say there's one prevailing or master trend that I could point to today at this show. I know in years past we've seen, I remember a couple of years ago, blockchain was nuts, and we had half a dozen or dozen companies in the space. But today I think there's a variety of companies that are across the board. Some are combinations too, right? So companies that are using blockchain, but they're in the cannabis space and things like that. So again, it's a mixed bag, to be honest, but it's what we're hoping to see in the next couple of years is a growth in technology companies using the market to fund their ambitions.
So what would be some of your recommendations for potential companies who are looking to list?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the companies that are going to list, if they're technology focused, I would suggest they have an eye towards top line and bottom line growth and bottom line profitability. So they're at least revenue generating. So let's think about that, revenue generating and maybe even profitable, because the patience in the market, in my experience, for technology companies is a lot more different than speculative industries like mining exploration or even what we've seen in cannabis, where people would be okay to fund market growth and market access, but metrics be damned, let's just do it. And technology, I think what people have learned over time is if you can't prove yourself in a 2 to 3 year span as being a viable revenue generating and maybe even profitable business, that's a high degree of risk unless you're really growing big and going after a large market share, which in Canada we don't really fund those types of businesses publicly. That's more of a phenomenon you find in the US, where you get these monster tech companies that go out there and raise these giant sums of money from VCs, and then they're on these aggressive growth trajectories, market penetration trajectories. And I think here we want to see stuff with a little more of a, is this a real business?
So what might investors not know about the listing process?
Timelines are always an issue with, the understanding of timelines, I should say. So a lot of companies, they want to go public, 4 or 5, 6 months from now, maybe there's a trend or they feel like they need to get access to capital sooner than is possible. But you got to run audits, you got to go through a regulatory review, you got to go through an exchange review, a lot of paperwork and a lot of, machinations between wanting and then actually doing. And it's a lot of professionals that have to get involved. So if a company comes day one and says, I just raised some seed capital, I'm thinking of going public, it's probably a year and a half before you're even going to be ready. And again, in the technology space, we've got to do, I think, maybe a better job educating early stage tech entrepreneurs about the work involved in becoming a public company, if in fact that's where they want to go. A lot of them probably don't even understand what's available to them early on in their life cycle, that going public on a Canadian exchange is quite viable. It's not what you see in the US, where it's a multi-billion-dollar market IPO. It's maybe something in the line of, I can now raise $5 or $10 million on the Canadian Securities Exchange and continue to evolve my business, as opposed to having to take on that, what we call rocket fuel VC capital, and then hopefully maybe getting to a big exchange in the US.
So it sounds as if you start the discussion early.
It's important. I mean, any company should understand what their exit is, and going public, to be clear, in Canada, most of the time is not an exit. It's a way to access more capital. It should be part of your capital formation strategy. So what we're really saying to these early stage entrepreneurs is, you know, as you plan your business growth, your capital formation, where's that capital going to come from? Who do you expect you want to have in your boardroom and on your shareholder list, growing with your company and giving you capital? And if you're not looking at the public venture capital scene, if you're not looking at the CSE or a marketplace in the public sphere, you're probably not looking at the whole picture. And one thing entrepreneurs need to have is that full spectrum view of how they're going to grow, hack their growth. And certainly we do need to educate them, I think, a bit better in Canada, that the public venture capital, the public markets, it's there if they have a viable business, an investable business, even if it's still fairly early stage.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Once again, I'm Dorothy with the Investing News Network.